From the Multiply family of churches, we are Behind Open Doors, a podcast designed to take you behind the scenes, discovering what it takes to multiply disciples, leaders, and new churches. We're located in the U.S., the Hampton Roads region of Virginia. Visit us at multiplythechurch.com. My name is Aaron Danini, Executive Director of the Multiply family of churches, and I'm here with our Director of Missions, John Slinker.
I think I just talked over you.
You're such a pro, bro.
Hey, man. I try to do my best over here. That's why they keep me out in the field.
The further we get into this, the worse we get. That's okay.
Hey.
No, I think the more relaxed we become, right?
Yeah,
I'm starting to feel a
absolutely.
little
We
bit
would
more
have
relaxed,
totally
right?
re-recorded that
Yeah.
from the start, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I'm loosening up a little bit as we get a little bit older in our podcast years.
Yes, our podcast beards are growing gray.
I love it. Man, we get to jump into another good discussion today with a church planter, a real live church planter in the flesh.
Yeah.
With us in this loud, noisy space. So we decided to record at the OV Church offices this time because Dylan, this guy we're going to interview, teaches school, and man, we got construction going on, all kinds of hammers and stuff going on. So that was not a good choice. Oh, and we took Pastor Jordan's study space for a couple hours here.
Yeah.
That was not a good move.
Was he going to study that much?
I don't know.
I feel like that's something Brad would have said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, having Dylan on was great.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to get into that discussion. So before we do that, though, we have a little bit of an encouragement for you.
Yeah, so as we enter the season of giving, we ask that you consider giving to the Multiply Project. We are trying to resource people like who we have on today, people who are going out into their neighborhood and taking the gospel with them and spending their time and their energy and their lives for the gospel's sake, for others' sake. And so it's really a great season to give, and we're so grateful for everyone's support to be able to continue making disciples and resourcing leaders right here in the Hampton Roads community.
Yeah, I'll put a little Easter egg out there for everybody, too. I've had multiple discussions just this past week of folks, guys, people that are interested in that are interested in becoming a part of this Multiply family of churches. And it might be down the road a little ways.
Until they hear the podcast.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I'm done interrupting you.
But they're considering it, and we're excited about it. But these things take resources. You know, it takes resources to come together, to pull these things together, to pull off what we pull off, to equip our churches to multiply disciples, leaders, and new churches. And so, please continue on giving to the Multiply Project. You can make a pledge with us or give a one-time donation, of course, at multiplythechurch.com. And we are just excited for what God is doing in this season with the Multiply family, and he's doing some great things. So,
yeah.
Here we are.
Without further ado,
yes,
we have a one time. I'm not sure if he still is. We didn't get this far in the podcast today, but a one-time Steve Austin fan. He talks about the motivations of the heart. He's called to hard soil. He's a Pittsburgh native, born and raised.
Yenzer.
Yep. He likes big sandwiches. You'll find KFC and pierogies on his Thanksgiving table growing up. Taylor, his wife, is a public school teacher. She's on the front lines. They have 3 kids together. He's a church planter. Ladies and gentlemen, Dylan Lebakken.
Let's jump into our convo with Dylan. All right, well, let's just dive right in here. Dylan, we want to put you on the spot like we've done the last few months that you've been in Virginia and just start guns a-blazing, man. Why do you want to plant a church in Norfolk, Virginia?
Wow, you just opened it up right there.
I did. I went in, man. Let's go. We'll get to know you here in a minute, but yeah, just let us know, like, why church planting? Why this area? Paint a picture for us.
Yeah. Put simply, why plant a church? We've seen the fruit of it. We've seen folks come in, families get baptized, mom, dad, grandma, grandson, granddaughter, aunts, uncles, and we've seen that. We've seen that from being a part of a church plant for the past 9 years, from when we moved to Camden and then we moved to the next town over to help start Epiphany Church, Gloucester City, and we've put plain and simply, it has made the difference in my life, in becoming a young, mature, responsible Christian, I'll never forget the, being a part of a young church plant and living in Camden like our first year, second year of marriage, and being invited to a Thanksgiving dinner at the pastor's house when we knew nobody, and that was the place where we first started a youth group at our church plant, and we saw kids get baptized, we saw families come to Christ, and so that's you can edit some of this out.
So no, that's good. So that sense of community and belonging sounds like is a really big deal for you when it comes to church planting.
When it comes to church planting, community and belonging, but also just making disciples, plain and simple. Number one, best way to make new disciples and to grow mature disciples, because there's just a very missional, evangelistic aspect that is hard to come by once your church hits 20, 30, 40 years old. Pretty soon you gotta make more of an effort to face outward rather than, risk your church facing inward and trying to sustain themselves and trying to,
One of the things we haven't even discussed before is how you got into church planting in the first place, and what led you down that route. And you just recently finished up school as well. Praise the Lord. And what got you onto this path in the first place?
For me, like I said, why church planting? Because we've seen its effectiveness. Like, there's something just super special about years 1 and 2, landing on the ground, being missionaries to your community, praying for folks, having dinner with them in your home, praying for them. Just like 100% evangelistic, and just be in the hands and feet of Jesus, right? And so when I think about, like, okay, why church planting, I think, number one, the centrality of the church, right? And its role to bring the gospel to the ends of the earth, right? When I think about that, and then I think about my testimony, like getting saved when I was 19, out of just a crazy rebellious lifestyle, and just had this crazy urban missionary dude just give me community service hours when I was going through a really tough time, and just poured into my life, brought me into his family, brought me into the church, discipled me, and so I know for me, getting into church planting was a no-brainer, because when I became a Christian, it was either, I'm gonna preach the gospel and be a Christian and be about it, or I'm kind of gonna fall off the face of the earth, and so that was for me. So that's the, I've been saved for like 3 months, been a Christian for like 3 months, went to work as a camp counselor, didn't know what I was doing. And that's how I met my wife. We met on mission. We met serving. And, I just remember from even the earliest days, like, making a profession of faith and everything like that, and being curious about Jesus, and being like, I've decided to follow. So now I need to, like, preach the gospel. And I remember we would do these at this sports ministry, Urban Impact in the city of Pittsburgh. Like, I just remember, volunteering like 4 or 5 nights a week, and because I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do, like I'm supposed to go and preach the gospel to broken and lost folks. And, I remember like driving this one teenager home every single Monday after our outreach basketball program. We'd bring him in, eat pizza with him, play basketball, and preach the gospel to him, and I just remember like being saved for like 2-3 months. Not even knowing what I'm supposed to do or say, but I knew that Jesus had made a difference in my life, and like every single ride, it would just be like a monologue of just like, hey man, like you need to follow Jesus, like don't do this. And, you just feel weird, you feel awkward, you don't really know what you're saying. But yeah, man, I had that same person come back to me years later after we lost contact and just reaffirm me and be like, yeah, I remember every single one of those conversations. And so for me, right, why church planting? Because mission has been the theme of my young Christian walk, and so from there, right, we, my wife and I graduated college. She worked in the school district of Philadelphia for 5 years and ran after school programs and summer camps in the city of Camden, and through a nonprofit while we were involved at our church plant. And really right there, like at that church plant, Epiphany Fellowship of Camden at the time is where we saw, where we got connected into that family and really saw the importance of that. And so
I guess we'll talk about the area coming to Norfolk here in a little bit. So let's back the trolley up a little bit, and just talk a little bit about your story. All right. So, what was growing up like for you, and what was your family like, and where do you come from? All those kinds of origin story questions.
Yeah. So me, I'm Pittsburgh born and raised, and I love the place, miss it a lot. Anytime we can get out there, and we're all about it. It's not too far of a drive now. It's 6-7 hours, and looking forward to getting out there for Thanksgiving. But growing up, we had a really close-knit family. I remember growing up, Mom's Italian side of the family eating dinner every Wednesday and Sunday at my grandmother's house, and they had these two big long tables that were squished together in the middle of this row home and on the side of an alley and stuff, and cooking wedding soup and pasta, and it was a lot of fun.
Sounds amazing.
To get your cousins there and aunts and uncles and stuff, and lots of good memories. Dad's side of the family, same close knit. Just spending Thanksgiving, Christmases together, and everything like that. And
big question right now: did you have pierogies on the Thanksgiving table growing up? Just curious.
We always had ham and Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Okay.
And so, yes,
right.
That'll do.
So that was on the my grandmother for some reason.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, that area is Pierogi Town, and I actually from about 2.5 hours north of that city, and we didn't really eat pierogies a whole lot growing up. They're like little, you know what they are? They're like,
I mean, I've had one before, but no, I can't really imagine
it's like mashed
right
potatoes inside of
That's right.
like a large ravioli type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And you steam them, or you could saute them.
What do you dip them in?
It
sounds like something you dip them in.
No, you just put a whole lot of butter on them, and maybe you could put gravy on them too. Like really, they can do almost anything. And you get all these different flavors.
So you eat them dry,
fantastic.
somewhat. They're essentially dry.
You could because the mashed potato is so nice
Yeah.
and mushy on the inside. But
Yeah.
a ton of butter, salt, and pepper is really all you need, though.
Yep.
Yep. What about, do you guys, so when we were up in PA last time, we got sick off of pizza balls?
Well, you did.
Well, I don't know.
Some of us have iron guts.
Look, we just had
stuff.
Brad on the show last week. I don't know if I should out him this time, but anyways, no pizza balls in Pittsburgh.
No.
Deep fried dough with pepperoni and cheese on the inside.
No, we ate a lot of pizza.
Okay.
But
interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Food.
Yep.
Let's do that. We should start a food podcast at some
Yeah.
point. That'd be
Yeah.
kind of fun, right?
Okay, Permani Brothers, does it meet the hype in your mind?
Oh yeah,
in your heart.
absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
If you haven't,
What's the biggest sandwich you've eaten from Primanti Brothers?
the biggest thing.
The biggest sandwich, yeah. Like name the layers.
Oh my gosh, they're all big. Normally it's like fries, coleslaw, egg.
On the sandwich bed.
Oh yeah,
On one sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
One bite is all
one
these
sandwich.
things.
Yeah. and then you wash all that down with your favorite beverage, and it's killer.
Literally.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
all right, interesting. Okay, so
That's good.
Back to the origin story. You got
You're
big
slamming
family.
pierogies and pizza balls on Thanksgiving. KFC.
KFC. I'm trying to remember if KFC was Thanksgiving or Easter. I think it was Easter. Now that I remember.
Gotta have the ham.
Gotta have that.
Lots of family sitting around the table. Lots of kids running around.
Yeah.
Cousin time.
Yeah.
There's nothing like cousin time growing
Oh,
up.
yeah.
You know,
Growing up,
like
for
that's
sure.
just
For
that's
sure.
a fun time.
Yeah.
So you got an older brother, is that right?
Yep. So we have my older brother. He's 10 years older than me. And then we have my older sister, who's 7 years older than me. And then my younger sister, who's 7 years younger than me. And so
Ooh.
there was a really, really
Damn.
big
Yeah.
age gap, 17 years between the oldest and
Homie, your
the
parents have
youngest.
amnesia
And
or what? Like,
well, I don't want to out them right here.
I have a similar situation.
But,
My
I
twin
guess you
sisters
do.
are 16 years younger
That's
than
right.
me. So
that's right.
yeah, so I get it.
Yeah.
That's
I get it.
crazy.
yeah.
So,
But I was the
brother,
oldest, though, so.
10 years older than you. What was that like?
We were closer than close, man. We shared bunk beds,
Wow.
So it was
Yeah.
like he was 17 and I was 7, and probably not like the best of situations when like your teenage brother has his friends over on
Yeah.
like a Friday or Saturday.
You
night.
grew up
You know
quick.
what I'm saying?
You
And-
grew up quick with an older
and-
brother like that.
Yeah, but loved him to death, man. Remember from our earliest days, just staying up till 2-3 a.m. playing the original Nintendo, and
Yes.
yeah, man, lots of fun memories and stuff like that. Teaching you your first guitar riff, teaching you how to shave on vacation, stuff like that.
That's
like that.
cool.
That's just like
So
that.
you had a good relationship with your
Oh,
brother
yeah.
then. That's
Yeah,
good.
absolutely.
Probably quite formative, I'm sure,
Definitely.
Yeah.
in those years.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's great.
So you're getting to high school. Your brother's, I'm assuming, some out of the house for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
You're, you mentioned already that you were kind of a little rebellious in those times. Talk a little bit about that. Like what were those years like for you? Those hard years.
Yeah. So again, just come from a regular old working class family. My dad's been working overnights at the grocery store his whole life. Been a great job. Worked really, really, really hard to provide for him and his family. Mom has been, a secretary her whole life, and then she would type doctor's reports for different doctors all growing up. And so she'd wake up at like 3, type doctor's reports, and then get her kids off to school, and then, and then go to her day job and stuff like that. And yeah, so we, growing up, my older 2 siblings, they went to the public school. Big public school, 2,500 kids. And when it got time for me to go to high school, instead of sending me to that same public high school, which my brother and sister perceived as having, quote unquote, not the best place to go to high school and to have an education, they decided to try and send me off to the local private Catholic high school. And so all growing up, we were raised, quote unquote, Catholic, right? So we went to all the classes. We had our first Holy Communion, reconciliation, confirmation, like all that, right? So that's how we were raised. And I remember going to like Latin Catholic services, on Christmas at my grandmother's church in Sharpsburg, PA, and stuff like that. And so yeah, that's how we were brought up. That just not a lot of like feeling and emotion, but like you showed that by how hard you worked, right? And so praise God for that. Love my parents to death. They're the greatest people on the planet. My mother has prayed us into the kingdom, and my dad has worked hard for every single thing that he's provided his family with. And sometimes as a teenager, though, right, you don't exactly translate that into what your heart needs. And so there was a lot of identity issues that I developed as a teenager, especially coming from the family that I did, and then being placed at a smaller private school that was probably really outside of my family's needs to provide for us and everything like that. And so, that contributed to a lot of identity. Like, where do I fit in? Who am I right now? Where do I fit into the world? What's my purpose and all this stuff? And so, growing up, it just translated into this crisis of sorts. Where do I fit in? And in turn resulted in a lot of rebellious behaviors and everything like that. And
So how'd you come to Christ?
Yeah, so I came to Christ when I was 19 years old. My brother had been a worship leader at a local church for a while, and I wanted nothing to do with it after growing up in a Catholic church and, making a mess out of my life. Was into partying and drugs and all kinds of stuff. And, I remember being 19. It was after my first semester of college, on the verge of, failing out and everything. And my brother invited me on this church-sponsored ski trip. And I had no idea that it was church-sponsored, or else I wouldn't have gone. And he invited me, and I said, all right, that sounds like fun. So I get all my supplies ready for the weekend, and I'm ready to go have fun and everything like that. And I get in the car, and then I learned that it's a church-sponsored event, and I'm like, gosh, this is going to be the worst weekend ever. And
at least I got my supplies.
Right. Yeah. And through all of that, it's not... The thing I remember the most is that people didn't care that I looked different. People didn't care that I smelt weird. People didn't care that, I didn't really have anything going on in my life. But they just genuinely asked me questions about my life, and they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. They asked me if I had any plans for my future. They asked me if I had some significant other, like all questions that you try to avoid as a young person who's lacking a purpose, who's lacking an identity, who's like really going through it, and you're just numbing yourself constantly with what the world has to offer, and they just asked me these questions, and they just loved me through it. And so I remember being surrounded by those like 9 or 10 other Christians, and they just loved on me. And I remember we sat down to worship that night, and that was the first time where I sang a song to Jesus, and I meant it, right? Give us clean heart, give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. And it was just like this overwhelming feeling of peace and like a weight lifted off of your shoulders. And so right then and there, it's not like, okay, like I'm cured, my life is great and everything like that. Like it was a long road to being in a spot to where I can even have normal, healthy relationships, But from there, it was like, okay, like I think this Jesus dude is real, And exploring every single option after the fact of that weekend of
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
So you mentioned how it took a while to learn how to be in a healthy relationship. Talk about the most important relationships in your life right now.
Yeah.
Introduce us.
Most important relationship is my wife. Love her to death.
Good answer.
We've been married 9 years now, and we have 3 beautiful children. Nora, who's 6 years old, Dylan Jr., who is 4 years old.
All right.
And
DJ.
All right.
And Theodore, who is 2 years old in a couple weeks. And
nice.
So yeah, we are. Those are the most important relationships that I have. currently that I would put on a pedestal, and that have, I say this to my wife all the time. I would be lost without her. And yeah.
Yeah, I heard you say that you guys met while you were serving.
Yeah.
What were y'all doing, and what was that like? What was that dating process for you guys?
Yeah, like I said, we were camp counselors. She grew up in Smithfield, Virginia, and I grew up in the city of Pittsburgh, right outside the city and everything like that. And
little different areas.
Very, very different. We are, opposites in every sense of the word.
Okay.
But it's great. It's something that we've come to deeply appreciate about each other and everything. And so we met serving. We were camp counselors, and it was great. After that first summer, we clicked, and we did long distance for a long time. And for us, for me personally, it gave me some time to grow and to work on some stuff that I desperately needed to. And so it was a really, really healthy thing for a young guy to practice communicating to his significant other. And so we did long distance for a year, and after that moved closer to each other, and the rest is history.
Where did you propose to her? Come on. These are always great stories.
Yes.
Man, I proposed to her. Gosh, I had this whole thing planned out at the summer camp that we met at as camp counselors. And
all the kids were going to cheer and stuff. Right?
So the kids weren't there. It was the off season, but it was a staff reunion.
Okay.
And there was this little gazebo, probably about a half a mile down the road from the camp, where we would sneak off.
First kiss
and talk.
First kiss location
and talk,
maybe. Yeah.
So I got formed a scavenger hunt and got the whole summer camp into it and stuff.
Oh,
like
that's
that,
cool.
And got all the staff into it and stuff. And so proposed out there, and I came down with the flu that day. And I had to go through with it with the flu. It was.
That's your consequence from God for trying to bring more romance into a summer camp. Like, it's not needed, bro. No, that's fantastic. That's really cool.
That is a good story.
I think it's a huge testament that your wife is still serving alongside of you today. What's that look like for you guys? I know a lot of people. I mean, we've even had an entire episode geared towards being a pastor's wife. A lot of people have different definitions as to what it means and their expectations as to what a pastor's wife should do. But from my perspective, it seems like she's just always been by your side, loving the people, being in the homes, taking care of the kids that need taken care of, just being that neighborhood mom as needed and friend.
Yeah, obviously for us, it looks a little different. My wife is a public school teacher, and so that in and of itself is a whole calling, is a whole ministry, which has opened up doors in ministry in countless ways. I will also say that my wife and myself as well, one of the things that we hope to recreate down here in Norfolk is just having that open door policy of ministry, man. Like early days church planting in Jersey, it's like you have people over like at least 3-4 nights a week, and you're just in your home, like after you put your kids to bed, and then you're up having late night conversations, praying for folks and learning their story, and just reminding them of the gospel and discipling them. And it's hard, when you have 2 full-time jobs and then you have 3 kids, and then you come home and you're exhausted and you don't want anything else to do on a Saturday. But then there's like, the person who's having a crisis because it doesn't happen on a schedule. People's crises don't happen on a schedule, and they call your wife, and then they need to go out to lunch with them, and stuff like that. And so my wife has has done all of the things in every single sense of being a pastor's wife, from leading Sunday school every single Sunday for months and months and months to, being the youth leader to, just being up front leading, some type of Sunday service and all of that stuff, and having people in her home, and part of the struggle as a pastor is to never just like belittle her, or to just completely put her on the back burner as insignificant and everything like that, and but to give her a pedestal to walk in her calling that Jesus has called her. And so for us, that's looked different throughout different stages of our lives, from being in seminary to starting church, to starting youth groups, to working at after school programs and stuff like that. But again, it's always remained the same of, whether it's, you're ministering to teen girls, or elementary school students, or, even young women that are coming out of, tough relationships and everything like that. So,
So you've mentioned ministry in Camden, New Jersey, which I know at some point has been the murder capital of the United States. Gloucester City, New Jersey, across the river from Philadelphia, same general area, but row housing, tough neighborhood, little kind of a small town within a big city. John and I were able to go up and visit you guys a couple summers ago, which was fantastic, just to see the place. And you came here kind of seeking out areas of need. And so you guys have done a lot of ministry in hard places. And you've even said specifically, like, I want to go to the working class. I want to go to the people struggling paycheck to paycheck. I want to go to the folks that, that are just going to be kind of down and out and hurting. What's that about? And God's clearly given you that heart. He's placed that in you. Where do you think that came from? So a little bit of origin of that, and then what does that look like together as you guys have done?
Yeah. I know for me, growing up, it was like, in high school, it was like your parents own some landscaping or company or electrical contractor company, or they had a union job and they were a part of the military or something like that, and they made enough money and they sent you off to college, and you got educated and everything like that, and then you never came back to the town that you came from, right? Or the other side of the coin was you barely graduated high school, you ended up just living with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and just ended up having a couple kids with them, working odd jobs under the table, and then by the time you're 25, 30, you've experienced tons of stuff, and you're dealing with all kinds of relationship issues, you're struggling with mental health, you're going through addiction, and by the time they hit 25, 30, it's like they're just addicted to porn, weed, and video games, and so I saw that and looked at that from that perspective, and so that's where it's coming from, is that kind of just living without purpose, ineffective, just surviving, numbing yourself, just into whatever will keep you entertained and occupied, and there is a whole crop of that. It's the working class is the largest demographic in America, and this generation that we have is one of the first downward facing that we have, right? In the history of the United States, that's 300 years old, and so you have a generation that's less educated, that makes less money, that is struggling to launch out of their parents' household earlier, right? And so you have this group of younger folks like. That are doing just that. If they haven't launched out and they haven't gone through the basic formal education and everything like that, it's just like they're lying low. They're living under the radar, and they're the ones that quote unquote should have made it but didn't, right? And so it's just a very left out, forgotten about, really to be honest with you, just like unsexy, type of ministry to be a part of is like, but they need a pastor. They need somebody to disciple them. They need, so just like growing up, young kid, 19 years old.
Well, I was going to ask, do you think that some of it for you is maybe because you could have been that, and so
absolutely,
and God
and
called
so
you out of that?
In a lot of ways, it's the ministry we've done in the past and what we hope to recreate down here in Norfolk is, it's a lot like ministering to old best friends.
Interesting.
Old pals, old people I went to high school with, and just hits home.
Do you feel like God has called you to solve or tackle any one problem?
Not any one specific problem, but to disciple people in terms of reminding them of the gospel, in every sense of the way. Yes, I think discipleship looks different for the folks that we are passionate about reaching, and by that I mean, like, there's some folks that we're going to be working with that, like, I know that part of the discipleship process for them looks like they need to be told that, like, you need to have your mom stop doing your laundry. Like you need to get out of your mom's household, stop letting her cook dinner for you, and find a stable job, and that's going to be part of the discipleship process for some of the like, for other people it's going to be different, but it's got to be that real intense, hands-on, I don't have words for it, but
Life on life.
Yeah.
Life on life.
No, that's really good, man.
You have the relationship, you have the trust established, so that you can speak into those areas.
Sure.
So maybe not any one problem in particular, but what's one of the things you're trying to accomplish in your discipleship that you're like, hey, this is how I was or was not discipled, and this is what I want to achieve?
Just plain and simple, a love for Jesus in your heart, 100%. Wherever you go, wherever God takes you, like, just fall in love with Jesus. Everything else falls in line after that, and so that's
Amen.
What we hope to instill. And I mean, that's the purpose of the church, right? Make new disciples, grow more mature ones. And
so it seems like you're getting into the heart of people's motivations. Practically, for those listening, what does it look like, and where can they start? Is there something they can put their hands on, or is there somewhere they can take their feet?
Open up your life, open up your heart, in every sense of the word.
Open up as in, like, let.
So here's what I mean.
People in. What do you mean?
In Ephesians chapter 3, verses 14 through 21, is Paul's spiritual prayer for power, and he prays for folks, specifically that they will allow Christ to dwell in their hearts. And so what that means is, to dwell in the Greek, it literally means to take up residence, right? To be there in a
right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so what that means is, for us, is we need to give Jesus the permission to come into any single room in our lives that he wants. He wants to be in the bottom of the dirty laundry basket. He wants to be in the bottom of the dirty sink of the dishes, and he's not afraid to do it without rubber gloves on. And so what that means for you and I is, like, it's great if we go to small group every single week and we share a meal and stuff like that's great stuff, right? But if you only get to they're like, hey, Acts chapter 2 talks about this, and I think like this is really cool. Like, you're missing a key component of what it means to invite Jesus into your heart, and then allow others to speak into that and to be discipled yourself, right? And so, 100% sharing your life with other folks, in hopes that you can open it up, make room for the Holy Spirit to come in and to dwell in your heart, and that's just one of the ways that we carry one another's burdens, and
So to make sure I'm hearing you right, if I'm a small group leader, I need to still go through Acts 2 and know the word and be able to bring that word and facilitate good discussion. But I can't stop there. That's incomplete.
It cannot be just.
I need to be welcoming people into my home.
It's not Christianity is not a hobby, right? It's not something that you just like, you're a fan of it, and this is something that we've gone to Sunday school my whole life, and I used to teach Sunday school, and I know all the verses and everything. It's way deeper than that.
Okay.
Way deeper than
Final question from me right now is, I know I've stacked 3, but I think this is really good, and what you're saying is great. And you yourself mentioned that having 2 full-time jobs, 3 kids under how old?
6.
A few years old.
Yeah.
And everybody's tired, right? What are some practical things that you guys have done to be able to free yourself up? Or is it just that discipline and the heart motivation that God has given you guys?
Free yourself up.
How can we take a sip of what you guys are drinking?
The most refreshing fruit that we've seen has changed lives. And that's
good.
what we pray for.
Yeah.
There's in ministry, you have way more defeats than you do victories. But every once in a while, you get that little sweet taste of like, wow, like God really answered this prayer. God changed this part of this person's life, and you see Him working, right? And that's where it makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
And so that's where I would say, for us and for our family, it's like whether we're praying together, praying with the kids at the end of the day, or praying for their classmates, or praying together, just my wife and I, the greatest testimony to the gospel for us has changed lives,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's Abraham that said that he was blessed to be a blessing. Amen.
Man, they're so good. There's so much I think we could continue on and get into. Let's maybe tie a bow on the discussion with Dylan just by talking a little bit about what are you dreaming about when it comes to planting in Norfolk. You got about we'll just say 1 to 2 year runway right now, setting up through times 12 and coaching. You just went through assessment. You're kind of preparing to plant now out of Little Creek Church and serving at Little Creek Church along the way. So what are you dreaming about over these next 1 to 2 years as God is bringing this church to life before our eyes with you at the helm and Him taking the wheel? Maybe, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Well,
we couldn't go anywhere else with that analogy. But you know what I'm saying? Go for it, man. What are you dreaming about?
That's perfect. That's perfect. The Holy Spirit is the wind.
There you go.
Ruah.
Yeah.
Filling your sails as you're at the helm. Okay, let's go. Where are you taking this ship, Jesus and Dylan?
Yeah. So funny.
You need a crew, don't you?
Yeah, we need a crew. But like I said, we're looking for a crew of folks that is passionate about making disciples. That's where we're at. We want to make disciples of Jesus that become a family together. And so I know one of the things that we are going to be very focused on is absolutely number 1, worship. Number 2 is relationship. Relationship with God and a relationship with others, and that just will bleed into the missional aspect of what we hope to have with our church is just having that really big emphasis on discipleship relationships. And so we need folks who are passionate about literally being in the lives of the sheep, you know, so much so that they smell like sheep, right? There's a really good book. I can't recommend it enough. It's called "They Smell Like Sheep" by Lynn Anderson, and we want them to be so in tune with the lives of the folks in the community that they smell like them in every sense of that, right? And that they know what's going on in their lives, that they're helping them make key decisions, and that they're coming back and praying with them, you know. And so we've seen huge fruit come from that. And if there's anything that we've learned about discipleship, it's not a, you know, hey, you come and you walk through this Bible study and stuff like that, and then you're magically changed and your life is okay. But you need somebody to be with you there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, text message, phone call, inviting people into your house, XYZ, and yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Good.
Where do we sign up?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Man, we're excited to see what God's going to do as you continue to press forward here. And we're here to support you, man. And before John ends with one last fun question for you, what do you want to say to people who are looking to either support or jump on board the ship, as it were? And what do you want to say to those folks right now?
Yeah, if you're looking to get involved, absolutely, you can totally email me. Email's dylan@littlecreekchurch.org. Or if you go to multiplythechurch.com, there is a form there that you can fill out, and it'll be sent directly to us, to where you can say, hey, like I want to sign up for this. I want to make some disciples, and I'm passionate about just doing some ministry with some regular old folk, just like myself. And of course, we need prayer. 100%. We need prayer warriors. Personally, my wife and I have been raising money for the past 4 or 5 years, and we have a whole prayer team that's just devoted to praying for us and then supporting us financially. We need prayer. We need people to support us in their pockets. That's 100%. It's a startup. We want to give folks the opportunity to support with their financial resources. And then we also need people to come and minister to folks that we'll be reaching. So in prayer, in pocket, and with people.
So obviously building the prayer team is the biggest thing right now, and you're going to be doing a lot of like grassroots recruiting of people right now. But really the next step, as you know, obviously too, is the building of all the a new website and the new fundraising packet and all that kind of stuff. We literally just went through assessment with Dylan, so all that stuff will be forthcoming. It'll be on the Multiply website because he's going to be a Multiply church, and so you'll see the links up there very soon. It'll be real accessible. Be able to access that very quickly here. And so, John, you have a very, very important question to ask Dylan before we end here.
I do, and we can't rush through it either.
Okay.
Dylan, I just want to see you get a little more nervous before I ask. What is one Thanksgiving tradition that you are glad you no longer have to do? Now that you're the man of the house, right? Like, you love your parents. We heard that. You loved your upbringing. We heard that. But you're really thankful you don't have to do this one. That's what you're thankful for.
I remember when we were kids, my brother and my cousins used to pick on like the younger ones a little bit. And there was like this little cubby hole underneath the steps in my grandparents' house. And after dinner, they used to lock us in there. And then they would stand outside.
Oh my God.
And they would make these howling sound like wolves. And it, like, as a 6-year-old, like, it was the scariest thing ever. And you could just imagine being locked in there in the dark.
That's great.
And then you just hear, woo.
Sounds like some older cousin
And
stuff.
that is one tradition I am very glad that I don't.
That's good. That's good.
That's amazing.
You got to
No-
pass it down, though. Maybe your kids. Maybe you can start that with your kids this year.
Yeah, no wonder you like ministry in dark places.
Right?
Oh man, that's
Bring the light, Dylan.
terrorizing. Jeez. Well, man, thank you so much for being with us behind open doors. We're excited for the new church plant. We're excited to see what God's going to do, and man, just God bless you. And I can't wait to see what comes to life here.
Likewise, and it was a blast getting to hang out for a few days up in Lynchburg, and just to really get to know you a lot better, man. We're so glad that you're with us and you're on our team, and we're all together. Really, really excited for what God's going to do.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys.
I just love talking to church planters. I mean, these guys have got just this fervor for discipleship, for evangelism, for reaching people who are far from God. And I think you hear that today from Dylan, and it just energizes me. I don't know about you. What do you think?
Yeah, it makes me feel like Jesus.
Yeah. yeah.
I mean it, though, because here's why. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why Jesus chose 12 young guys. Maybe some of them weren't as motivated, right, or as hard workers. Maybe they covered the gamut in all ways. But there's something about people who make themselves available for the mission.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's so true. As you were talking about that, I was thinking, man, yeah, Jesus was 30. We pretty much know that. But we know at least half of his disciples were in their early 20s, if not late teen years.
Right.
Back in those days, that's a huge age gap. That's like a 20 to 40 age gap probably would be today, I'm guessing. He was a professional. He was a carpenter already. Like, he is already a tradesman, already accomplished. I think a lot of people think that Jesus was poor. He wasn't.
Probably ran his own business.
He ran his own business. He took over the family business when his father died. We know that the cloak that he wore, that they didn't want to divide at the cross, was not seamed, which meant it was very expensive. So he actually wore an expensive garment in most of his time in his itinerant ministry. And so he had to have some sort of reputation like that to be seen as a rabbi in the first place, right? He wasn't just some poor guy that grew up poor. Then we have this idea of a poverty theology.
That was John the Baptist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
And that was a chosen life by John to pave the way, right? No, that's interesting, though, that you bring that up, because it is like, now I'm in my 40s and I'm hanging out with these dudes that are in their 30s planting churches, and early 30s. I think Dylan's around 30, and it's just it's energizing.
Yeah.
And we need that,
100%.
I don't have that much energy anymore.
Right. Dude, I was wondering that if anybody else was feeling what I was feeling.
Yeah.
Listening to him, I remember that. I still have that same fervor.
Yeah.
I just have a lot less of the energy to actually accomplish all of it.
Sure.
But yet, I had one of the guys mentoring me for a bit ask me, "Hey, John, if you only had 3 other men that you discipled for the rest of your life, would that be okay with you? Would that sit with you?" Fine. And after thinking about it, I was like, yeah, absolutely. If that's what, and if as long as those 3 have 3 each, then we're good, right? Like, so as far as motivations, like, I hear this energy and passion from younger generations. We all know that to be a thing. However, when you do see the fruit of it, oh man, it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
And so hats off, because I think the reason why a lot of younger people don't step in and do the work is because there's not a lot of other people to the left or the right of them doing it.
Yeah.
And so it shows Taylor's and Dylan's just drive and their heart for their neighbors.
And that drive has to be there at some level, and it's not, and I believe that can be, I think that can be both a learned thing and a God-given thing at the same time, right? Like, you have to somehow learn how to be driven by the gospel, and not just passion. Like passion wears out, right? But being driven by the gospel,
Right.
and then as you get older, you're driven in different directions, maybe, and just not into heresy or anything like that, but you're driven differently by different things. So, for instance, in these couple of weeks here for me is a lot of like sitting at my desk and writing, and I'm actually driven to do that now, and I'm excited about those things now. But good Lord, 2 or 3 years ago, that I would have glazed over an hour in and fallen asleep at my computer, you know? And so, just harnessing what God has gifted you or given you, as a gift in the time that you have it, and knowing that is a God-given thing, and being driven by that God-given motivation, and then like directing that all in the right direction, the proper direction for you, for your spouse, for your kids, for the people you're leading, whether it's a small group or a church or whatever. Man, it is if you can do that and know that it's a grace-driven effort, man, you've locked in to begin to unpack how the Lord guides us in His will.
Okay, now we're starting to have the meeting after the meeting. All right. Why a grace-driven effort? What do you mean by that when you say that?
Yeah,
as opposed to what?
Yeah, as opposed to feeling like you're doing it to earn the favor of God. So my grace-driven effort is I think it's a purposeful statement because it's faith and works that proves you to be a disciple of Christ. But it's not. But your works aren't done so that you earn more of God's favor. Your works are done because of the faith that you have in Christ, right? So a grace-driven effort is understanding that I'm a product of grace, but there's still work to be done that I have to participate in, put my hand to the plow, and get the work done. And though I do it and work my butt off, work my tail off to make sure that it happens, I'm not doing it to earn more of God's favor. He's not going to love me any more in the future than He loves me right now.
Yeah.
So my grace-driven effort is knowing I'm a product of grace, putting in the work, putting in the effort because of the grace given me, not so that I earn more of His favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. Good answer. That's really helpful, and I like parsing through stuff like that. This is the kind of stuff that we've always said, man, it would be great to have a podcast one day and actually capture some of these combos.
Yeah.
So Dylan, he's the kind of guy that just has an extra gear for that. Right.
Yeah.
And that's great. And the last thing that I hope people walk away from this hearing is, wow, he's got an extra gear there where I don't. And, so I shouldn't even try and pursue it. Give him a shout. Hit him up. Chat with him. You don't have to have people in your home 5, 4, 3 nights a week. But taking the first step.
Yeah, so important. Well, one of the primary roles of Multiply, of course, is to equip our family of churches with the resources they need to multiply these disciples, leaders, and new churches. New churches are led by planters and teams who are prepared on pathways to planting with our Times 12 Church Planting Network. We're excited to partner with times12.org, times12.org. You can go there and check them out. Leaders are developed using our leader pathway. Disciples who want to grow as disciples of Jesus can access our disciple-making toolbox that's on our website at multiplythechurch.com. But please, 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 don't do this by yourself. Discipleship is inherently a together process. Whether it's you finding somebody to disciple or you being discipled by someone else, this is a life-on-life kind of thing. And so we want you to go check out those resources. I think it'll help you so much in your journey to discipleship. And for now, it's time to close down the podcast. But remember, the doors, of course, are wide open here with the Multiply family.
Yeah, if you have found this podcast helpful, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps us be seen by other folks who may enjoy a behind-the-scenes discussion like this one. You can also join our Facebook page where we have further discussions about each episode.
And you know what? We read these things at the end of the podcast because we actually believe them, and we really want you to go do it. So go share the podcast, go talk about it, and share it with people. Hey, you want to hear what a church planter life is like and how someone's called to church planting? Go listen to that interview that John and Aaron did with Dylan. It's really helpful. You want to hear about how to pursue purity with a new dating relationship? Go back and listen to the interview with Pastor Brad. You want to hear about what it's like to be a pastor for a number of years? Go look at the interview with Pastor Aaron. You want to hear what it's like to be somebody who's passionate about the neighborhood church and church planting? Go listen to the interview with Pastor John. So yeah, go just spread the word, talk about this thing, and I think it'll be really, really, really helpful. I found a quote, by the way, before Robbie sends us off. A quote by Dallas Willard that says, "Grace isn't opposed to effort, but it is opposed to earning." Grace isn't opposed to effort, but it is opposed to earning. So
Yes.
we encourage you to not go and earn more of the favor of God, but go be encouraged by a grace-driven effort as you go on with your day today. You've been listening to the Behind Open Doors podcast, where we take you behind the scenes, discovering what it takes to multiply disciples, leaders, and new churches. Let the word dwell richly in you, and may God multiply your efforts for the kingdom.